Well, good morning. My name is Ezekiel Johnson. Friends just call me Zeke. I'm here today because your teacher, Mr. Johnson, who actually is my cousin, wanted me to share a few things that I have had all these years fighting these wars. Now, I fought in the Revolutionary War against those British, and now I'm starting to fight in these Northwest Indian Wars. Probably never heard of those, but I'm fighting the Indians. I'm out there with General Wayne, and we're going to be talking about the Treaty of Greenville today, but let me show you a few things that I had to use while I was in those wars. First of all, what I'm wearing is called a shirt. Actually, it's a hunting shirt, and it just protects me from the rain. You can see that it's got different layers on it. Protects me from getting wet. Protects me from getting cold. On my belt, I'm wearing a few things. If I can step back far enough, you can see I have a pouch here, and my pouch is for all my ammunition that I carry in here, for my weapons. It's a possibles bag, so I have lead ball in there, and for my powder for my weapon, I carry it in this here. It's a powder horn. So actually, it's part of a cow's horn where you cut it off, open this up, you have powder inside, cap this end, and I'm ready to go. Now you got to be pretty fast when you're on the run. You got to be pretty fast. Also, I'd never go anywhere without this. Now, this isn't just for killing people. This is for surviving. This is for skinning them animals that we got to kill, actually, for food, and for knocking anything else down that gets in our way. So, very essential. Always carrying that. And I never go anywhere, if you can see, without my little pet skunk skin. That's right, little pet skunk skin. Now, this actually is a pocket that I use, and I carry some things inside this here too. There's one other thing you haven't seen yet, have you? And I know you all want to see it. Let me get it for you. It's right here. This is my trusty weapon. I make sure she's clean every day. I make sure she's oiled up. This is a 45 caliber flintlock musket. 45 caliber. Now, it's not one of them Kentucky rifles. It's a little shorter than that. The Kentucky rifle is a lot longer. This one here, I can run a lot faster with this one here. And it's pretty accurate, too. So, you know how it's loaded, don't you? You don't? Well, I better show you. First of all, you got to take a little bit of powder, put it in here. All right. You measure it out, and you take a ball. You put that ball in there, and then you take the ramrod out and shove it down inside there. I don't want to do it right now. And you make sure it's nice and tight in there. You understand? And when you come up here, you're not done yet. You got to open this up, and there's a little pan right there. See that pan? Put a little bit of powder in that pan, not too much. Not too much, just a few grains. And you close this up, you pull this all the way back. Now, what good is that going to do? Can you see this real close? It's a piece of flint right there. As the flint hits this, and it knocks this open, it has just enough of a spark to go inside that little hole right there. You understand? And then it ignites this powder, and boom goes the ball. And if I'm lucky enough, I hit what I'm aiming at. All right? So, let's get down to business. We're going to talk a little bit about once George Washington became President of the United States and these Northwest Indian wars that he got himself into. Now, we're going to start talking about George Washington after he became President of the United States. In the 1790s, America was not very well known in the world. That's right. Nobody knew who the United States of America was. So they had to gain respect of the rest of the world. Now, how are they going to do that? They just can't go beat up on everybody. They had no army. They had no navy. So what were they going to do? Plus, those wily British went against their own laws when they signed that Treaty of Paris. All right, now them British, here's what they were doing. They signed that Treaty of Paris, and they were supposed to get everything they had out of North America. You think they listened? No, they didn't listen. They didn't listen at all. They were still in their forts, and their forts were up around the Great Lakes area, around that place they call Ohio. Ohio. Boy, what a nice territory that Ohio is. They were giving the Indians guns. They were trading with them. They were giving them weapons. They were teaching them how to use them. Why would they do that? Because they love to take these United States back again as their colonies. Oh, yeah, they're not done with us yet. They're going to do it a different way, that's all. And so they're trying to come back. Now, are we going to have to fight these British all over again? It's a good possibility. It really is. But first, we're going to have to fight them Indians. Now, why would we want to fight the Indians? Well, we had no bones about it. In a proclamation of 1763, that the British made that nobody could go across the Appalachian Mountains. We had kind of made a deal back then. The British had made a deal with the Indians that we would just let them have that land. Well, now that's all changed because, see, the land belongs to America now. And now that it belongs to America, we are putting settlers out in those places like Ohio because that's the Northwest Territory, remember? Right, that's the Northwest Territory. We want to make a couple states out of that territory. Matter of fact, we made how many states out of that territory? That may be the question of the day today. So you remember that. How many states were made out of that Northwest Territory? Anyway, let's get back to what this is all about. Now, there was an Native American chief named Little Turtle. And Little Turtle, about 1785, had decided that they are not going to let the settlers come into this territory. Now, we were supposed to have peace with them people. But you see, the British would get them all riled up. And the British is giving them weapons, like I said again, saying, well, you can go ahead and do whatever you need to those Americans, and we'll promise you this and promise you that. You think they're going to stick to any of your promises? Of course not. They never stick to any of their promises. So let's go on a little farther what happens. Little Turtle, who is a Miami war chief, gets a couple other Indian chiefs to join him, and they start attacking our settlers. So eventually George Washington will send out a troop of men, troops of men, well, probably about 800 or so, and it's under General St. Clair. Okay, under General St. Clair. Down around the Cincinnati area, General St. Clair gets involved with these Native Americans in a battle. It's one of the worst battles in American history. He lost 600 men. He skedaddled, barely made it back with his life. I wasn't with them then. I wasn't with them. Those poor men, they were butchered. They really were. And a couple other times, Little Turtle, they had some victories here and they had some victories there, and they thought, well, hey, this is going to be a breeze. No problem. We're going to be able to take this country back, and nobody's going to be the wiser. Wasn't going to happen that way. Let me tell you why. Because of the Miami and the Shawnee and the Delaware all joined together to keep their land. After 1791, and St. Clair was defeated badly and lost over 600 men, Washington sent somebody else out there. His name was General Anthony Wayne. He had a nickname, Mad Anthony Wayne. It wasn't because he was angry, because they thought he was a little cuckoo, okay? But he got the job done. He sure did get the job done. Up around a place called Fallen Timbers, up around where that Toledo area is that you call today in Ohio. He defeats a lot of Native Americans, especially the one that's the chief of the Shawnee called Blue Jacket. Once he defeats them, let me tell you what happens. I was there. This is in 1794, in August 1794. They forced him to sign a treaty in 1795 called the Treaty of Greenville. Now, a lot went into it before that. Because on August 3rd, 1795, leaders of the Wyandot, the Delaware, the Shawnee, the Ottawa, the Miami, the Eel River, the Wee, the Chippewa, the Potawatomi, the Kickapoo, the Piankeshaw, and the Kaaxis nations all signed this treaty. They all signed this treaty. What did the treaty say? That we're going to give up a lot of land in this place called what? Ohio. Ohio, a lot of land in Ohio. Wow. Well, let me go back from the beginning here with General Anthony Wayne and tell you a little bit of the story so you can kind of get a gist of what's happening, okay? All right. August 20th, 1794. It was hot. It was hot. You know what it's like in Ohio in August? It's hot. It really is. An American army commanded by General Mad Anthony Wayne, and yours truly, I was there, defeated an American Indian force led by Blue Jacket. He was a Shawnee chief at a place called Fallen Timbers. Now, this victory and the failure uh, of the commandment of the British for modern day Maumee convinced American Indians living along the Maumee River to sue for peace. They said, well, we got to have peace. We must have peace. We can't keep moving west. Now we're going to be in Indiana territory. So what are they going to do? January 1795. Representatives from the various tribes that I mentioned began meeting with General Wayne at Greenville, and the Anglo-American settlers and American leaders that they had at that time. They spent the next 8 months working out this deal, kind of like Congress today working out deals. It takes a long time, and everybody's got to get something else that they want. Remember what that word was that we used? Compromise. Compromise. So we had to compromise, and they had to compromise. But you know what? They got it done without any bloodshed at Greenville. They got it all done. So um, at this time, you would have uh, this fort. It's Fort Lawrence, and it would go west to Fort Laramie and Fort Recovery. So you see, we're setting up forts. We're setting up forts in Ohio. Also, the American Indians were permitted to still hunt on this land that they were going to give us. So they weren't kicked off totally. They were still allowed to hunt there. And after all of this, we gave them $20,000. $20,000. That's big money. $20,000. So we didn't just take the land. We actually paid them for it. Although we paid for it in money and blood. Two different things. Also, in that treaty, it said that we would give them $9,500 a year. Kind of like rent. But yet we still own it. Wow, we're going to give it to them for. They could decide what they were going to do with it. They could decide whatever they want to do with it. All right. So that money, I think, came in types of supplies and things like that that they needed, and so they kept their tribes together. All right. Some American Indian tribes, though, they're going to refuse this. They're going to refuse to give up their land like that, and the British are going to ramp things up a little bit. They're going to make things a little bit more interesting, and they're going to still provide weapons. Now, you remember I tell you these names because they're going to come back. People like Tecumseh and the Prophet, both Shawnee. Matter of fact, them two are brothers. Are going to be kicking this around in their head for a long time. A long time. And guess what? They're going to try to take this land of Ohio back again. Oh, yes. They're going to try to take it back again. And they're going to try to get some of their native tribes to help them. Now, reading off my notes here. There's so much information. I hate for you to miss anything. So, what about that treaty? Well, George Washington had an opportunity to meet one of the Indians at that time. One of the Indians was a chief that saw George Washington way back in 1755. 1755. What was George Washington doing in 1755? He's fighting the French and Indian Wars, and he was with General Braddock. Do you remember that story? General Braddock was killed, and it was George Washington that rallied those troops together and got them out of the way of that ambush. Well, what did this native chief have to say? He said, I know we were fighting against you. And he said, I shot at you myself 17 times. You didn't go down. You wouldn't go down. Horses went down, but you wouldn't go down. And I told my braves, stop firing at him, because whatever's protecting him, we don't want to come against us. True story. If you remember, George Washington that day had 4 holes in the back of his jacket, and he had bullet fragments through his hair. He was saved. So now here is almost 40 years later, and he's back in that same territory, isn't he? Yep. But this time as president of these United States. He's come a long way, but he still has some problems. There are still some problems. You see, we have Indians fighting in the West. We have an economy that's out of control because we owe so much money to everybody and different countries. And there's a big problem. Trade. Well, we can't trade with anybody. Sure, we can trade with people. But where the real trade is in the Mediterranean Sea, you understand? So in the Mediterranean Sea, we need to get in there, and there's only a few ways to get in there. And once you do, you run into people called pirates. Oh, yes, they're real. The pirates are real. See, the British would protect us before we became a country, protected all of our ships. But since we became independent and started flying that their American flag, they said, you're on your own. And the pirates, sometimes working for the British, would attack our ships. But now in the Mediterranean, what they did was this: they would stop our ships and they would ask for tribute. You know what tribute is? That's an important word. So underline that word, tribute. It means protection money. Protection money. In other words, they'd stop and say, we want to protect you all through the Mediterranean. So if you pay us, we'll protect you. Some of them sailors might think, well, who are we protecting you from? Well, you're from us. Oh, now you get it? So you give them some money and they'll let you through. But how far will they let you through until the next pirates get you? This was becoming an epidemic. It was becoming something that was getting out of control. We were getting our goods taken, we were getting our ships taken, and we were getting our sailors taken, and they were using them as slaves. Oh, yeah, they were using them as slaves. Now, some of the countries you might realize, these countries were Morocco, Algiers, and Tripoli. Tripoli today is called Libya. It's called Libya. It's right on the top coast of Africa. They call it the Barbary Coast. And these are called Barbary pirates. Congress appropriated money as tribute money to pay these people. Can you imagine this now? Can you imagine America today dealing with these kind of people and we're paying them money to protect us? How long is Washington going to let this last? Well, unfortunately, longer than it should have. By 1794, pirates were holding dozens of U.S. citizens for ransom. In other words, it wasn't bad enough that they got the tribute money, but now they want ransom to get our sailors back. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. What do you think some of our newer presidents would do? Well, we didn't have missiles back then. We didn't have airplanes back then or helicopters back then. But we had men and we had a few ships, but they're so big. How are you going to hide those ships? How are you going to get in there without them noticing? Somebody's got to have a plan. Thomas Jefferson, who was then President Washington's Secretary of State, advised Washington and Congress to declare war on these pirates. No, they weren't going to do it. It's easier to pay them. It's easier to pay them? I'm ready to go, Mr. Washington. I'm ready. He wasn't going to send us. He wasn't going to send us. Congress would not send us. You know, they're the ones that really can declare war. Washington instead sent diplomats to negotiate with these people to get our men back. No success. No success. They weren't going to give them back. That kind of gets my dander up. You know what I'm saying? I want to go fight them right now, but I can't. President won't allow it. When John Adams would become president in 1797, he continued paying the pirates. Now, come on, Mr. Adams. You were pretty good defending those British during the Boston Massacre. You can't go after some pirates. We just didn't have the ships. We just didn't have the ships. And the ships that we did have, they were taking some of them and they were repainting them and using them all over again. It wouldn't be until Thomas Jefferson would become president of these here United States that there would be a pirate war. Oh, Mr. Jefferson, he wasn't somebody that would just sit back and take this anymore. He had seen this all the way through Washington's administration and through Adams' administration. And when it started with his administration, he said, that's where the bite hits the biscuit. We are not going to let this happen anymore. But we continue to pay tribute. We continue to pay tribute all this time until Thomas Jefferson would become president. But you know what? I'm going to stop for today because I'm at 21 minutes already. And I think I've done enough. So I don't want to wear you out too much. Just remember, you tune in to find out what happens. Because we're going to talk about another revolution that's going to be happening real soon. And it's not in America. We'll see y'all. Bye. Stay safe and stay inside.